Hello and welcome everyone to the Friday, July 22nd edition of the Contributor Comms team. We are a subproject of SIG ContribEx, which is part of Kubernetes, et cetera, et cetera. And that means that we have a code of conduct that we abide by. It essentially means be excellent to each other, be respectful of your fellow speakers and attendees of the meeting. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and hop into our schedule for today. I'll start off underneath the table in our notes doc with our notes. Not that we use them that much anymore. But any updates, big wins that anyone wants to shout out today? We'll start there. Nothing in particular? Okay. We'll go over all the updates in the table then. And any new items that anyone has noticed? I know that I noticed I missed, there's a few tweet PRs. I know one of them is about this month's Meet Our Contributors thing. So I don't know when that is. It's not mentioned on the PR. So that is a new item that I mentioned, that I noticed. So I figured I'd mentioned it. New tweet PR. Cool. All right, and from there we'll move into our table. I should probably add that into our into our format somehow. Note that we go to the table at that point. All righty. Up at the top of the table is Hina as usual. So Hina, we made a little bit of progress last time, I think, in figuring out where to ask for suggestions on other ways that we could alert the team when a new GitHub issue is filed that we need to pay attention to. Currently, well, as of last time, there was the solution that you added a mention of us into the template. Issues with that are that people could remove it, so then we wouldn't get notified, but if they leave it in, we should get notified. So we were going to try that out, and you were also going to ask about other suggestions. Submitted a PR last night. Okay, and Atarva gave you a great tip if that doesn't work. Atarva, do you want to say anything about that?
Sorry, I lost you there. What?
We're talking about Hina's work on making sure that we get alerted when a new issue is filed that we need to pay attention to. She said that you gave her a great tip on how
It wasn't to me.
I guess she's talking about me.
Oh no. So Avinash, would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that, I mean, we need to test the original idea, which was the template one, but if that doesn't work, what we can do is we can ask folks who are creating the issue to add labels to it, and in response to that labels, we can tag the entire group so that we are notified. So we can get notified that way as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think generally, I know when I create a new issue in any repo, I'm always like, what labels do I need to be adding to this? So I try to find other example issues to do that based on. But if we told people, I think that would be really helpful. So maybe that's just something we should do in general. Good suggestion. Thank you. All right, so it sounds like that's in progress for now. We're just gonna wait and see how this goes for a couple weeks. Maybe think about this other idea. Maybe we should do both, honestly. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Granted, Hina's gonna be out for a couple weeks, so. Yeah, I think it would be cool to do both. So I think we should try it. personal opinion. Okay, cool. Thank you, Hina. Thank you, Avinash, for helping. Alrighty. So we'll move on from that one. Next one, contributor tip tweet. Are we going to do something specific about this? We were working with Chris's article and getting that going on the dev side. He said that we were up for us taking over that, but I don't think we started doing that, did we, Federico?
I don't think so, no. And well, to be honest, if there, give me just 1 second to, I have my daughter here.
Take your time.
Then, if maybe there was some action on my part in that, honestly, if there was, I didn't capture that. Because I think that the thing that needs to be done is to cover the suggestions and the reviews that exists in the PR from Chris and move it from there. So what would you think would be the next step for us to take over that? Open a new one? Because I don't think that we can actually make changes to that, right?
Right, yeah. So that was one thing we were discussing was Chris hasn't really had time to work on this and take in the suggestions and fix everything up. So what he suggested was that we create a new PR.
A new one.
With everything.
So, and would it help if I created that PR?
Certainly from my perspective.
No, perfect. Yeah, I just need to have things clearer. So yes, so put that on my tab, and I will create a PR, hopefully, while mentioning the other one and incorporating some of the changes that are there, to the best of my ability, right? Because some of the comments and some of the things that are mentioned, I will likely need some additional assistance, but for that I will talk with you and Chris as well.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Federico, for pushing so many things forward. Like I said last time, my pleasure. Such velocity. Alrighty. Doing its best to incorporate the feedback. Oh wow, it auto-corrected that. Nice. Alrighty. Next item are the 2 buffer ones. So there was progress on that this week, I think. I mentioned last week I was running an event in Seattle this week, so I was kind of out of it for basically the whole week outside of Monday. Well, I was still out Monday afternoon, so basically the whole week I was out and about, but I did see some movement on the buffer thing, I think in the ContribEx channel. Anybody else see that? No? Okay. I need to check in with Bob on that. So, how do I want to do this? I think I'll actually like grab these 2 items. They're long-standing. They're still going to be things that we need to care about, scheduling tweets and auto-generating blog tweets. I think we need something different just for tracking the buffer thing. And then once we have buffer, we need to fix these 2 things. Should I leave them in the table and just reduce the notes on them, or I think I'll at least insert a new row. Yet another buffer one seems like too much, but I guess they all have different purposes. So giving myself an action item to sync with Bob on the buffer status. I think we have approval from the CNCF now. We have someone to give us the funding to get the account. He was asking, I think, if there was an account that they wanted that they were supposed to add the billing to, which it's not like we've created an account already for them to do that too. So I need to work with Bob to figure out what to do there. So work with Bob Killen on getting billing / account set up. Okay. So that is the current buffer status. I'm going to remove this. I'm removing some notes on the other on the other buffer items, at least, so that they're a little bit smaller, though there is some nice context in these. Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't combine them, but I did make them smaller. That's where we're at past me. I had a comment on the notes to do that. All right, next item, role description. Avinash, I know there's been an update there.
Yep. So I've shared my draft and looking forward for some feedbacks. I think Paris did say something. She
Yeah.
shared me a link for I guess reference maybe. So yeah, any other comments or something, please give so that I can just add things into it.
Perfect. So everybody, if you can make the time to review that, it's in our contributor comms channel in Slack. And I'm also putting the link to the HackMD in the notes. I'm going to try to clean up some notes today. I'm going to remove the basic overview of what the role is, since we should be able to see that from the HackMD now. And I'll leave this like context on. Remember that roles are not the end all be all of how to do things. We work on them iteratively and they evolve over time. But looks good. Thanks for getting a start on that. Any other questions, comments about the events role thing, or shall we move on? All right, next item. Review repo, look into adding a description of, this is just the more general roles thing, which is also funny. I should split that out. Atarva, I do have something to work with you on that I keep not pinging you about. And I'm really sorry about that. But I'm glad you're here today. So
Yeah,
we
I
can
was
chat about
busy
it
too. Yeah, so
yeah. So you had this idea of like this approver role, and we've been trying to kind of work out what that should look like. It might have some overlap with some of the other roles, because I have a HackMD out, and now I need to put the HackMD over here. I really need to just, I'm just going to move all of this to this one and delete this line. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so I have a HackMD out for the social media coordinator role, and the social media coordinator would include ownership of the contributor tweets repo specifically. But I think there's probably more that goes into this approver role that you were thinking about. For example, approving tweets to our team repo, kind of general ownership responsibilities, particularly as it pertains to GitHub, but maybe beyond that, maybe like running this meeting. So that could be more like a kind of general leadership role. What do you think, Atarva?
yeah, I was thinking more, the first time I approached you, I was thinking of more like getting in approvalship, getting in an approvalship for the
tweets?
Accepting the tweets for the GitHub.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking more of that, but now as it is more generalized, I think, yeah, shadowing may be a good thing for me to if we are looking into that role, then shadowing would be a good thing for me to just understand the whole
Yeah.
work around it.
Yeah, we've got to come up with a definition of what the role would be. Though if you want just like the tweet approval thing and like to manage the tweet process, I think that would follow under this social media coordinator role. I brought this back. That's why it exists, by the way, is I actually submitted a PR for this like a year ago or something. And I totally messed up submitting the PR because I'm really bad at Git. And then our group decided that we wanted to go to this leadership council thing because we had been shrinking and now we are not shrinking. So I brought that PR back as a HackMD. And so that's why this kind of happened. So take a look at that HackMD if you would. It's linked in the notes and I'll put it in our chat.
What you
and
said
see if
about
that's
the
interesting.
okay, yeah.
Did you have a question or comment?
No, I was just you said about more nuanced role about hosting a meeting or just
Yeah.
more than what approving a tweet for the GitHub. What was that all about? I wanted to know more about it.
Right. So you had mentioned this role of approving tweets. And I wrote that in the notes as approver and that role idea came from you. Then I revived the social media thing and we realized that approving the tweets specifically is kind of part of the social media role. But I thought this approver role could mean more than what you originally intended. So I was thinking we might generalize it into something a little bit different from what you were originally thinking. And I wanted to get your feedback on that.
You know what? We can just create two different roles for this then.
Right.
One for the social media coordinator role and the other for a superior type approver thing where
Yeah.
he or she or they would just shadow on working with the hosting meeting or anything beyond that. So yeah, what should we do next now?
Cool. So if you want to be involved in creating that other role definition, we can sync asynchronously on Slack, and I should just go ahead and ping you about that, whether we're going to or not, because it will start the conversation if we want it.
Yeah.
And
Because-
also review the social media role and see if that's something you want.
Yes, I'll review the HackMD of the social media role. Yeah.
Giving you that to do in Slack as well.
Yeah.
Also, let's discuss approver / leadership role beyond that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Atarva. It was a really useful idea that's generated movement, which is really helpful.
In the context of leadership, we have very, what we can say, experienced contributors out here. We have Avinash, we have Frederico, we have Debabharat, also many other people. So we can just create these roles and give them a particular badge around them so that they also feel some kind of
Ownership.
Yeah, ownership.
Yeah. That's a big part of creating roles, is making sure that people have ownership, they have visibility in the project, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, we have folks who are definitely already very well suited to, very experienced and ready to take on these roles, I think. But we'll just have to find the right roles for each person and make sure that they're comfortable with the responsibilities and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll all be a part of that.
Would it make sense to expand on that suggestion that we had last time on the interview / blog writer role, or?
Remind me of the discussion.
No, it was yeah, we were discussing the spotlight stuff and
Okay.
the process of writing blogs, etc. And I think that it was Chris that said, well, that actually might be interesting to document in terms of a role, so content creation, interviews, etc. Just an idea, because it was suggested back then, and I do need a place to put some ideas that I've been playing with and some lessons learned from the process. So it could be a quick win, or maybe it doesn't really make sense because everyone here ends up being a content creator in some way. So
actually, we did have a role kind of like that originally with the
Yep.
team, which was the storyteller role.
Oh,
And that
yeah.
was basically like a
D&D.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was basically like a content creator role. But
Okay.
I think what you're talking about might be a little bit deeper than that, because there's considerations around collaboration with the blogging team. Like right now,
Right.
we're trying to track the changes that they're making to their process. So
Yep.
someone who could track that and kind of let us know when there are outside, like
Yep.
blogs that have been written outside of our group that might need our help with review or something like that. Someone to coordinate that would be, I think,
Okay.
really awesome to have. And I think that's a little bit beyond the storyteller role.
Yeah,
that we
just
usually
writing.
had.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We should
Okay.
create a list of all the roles now.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think.
list in the notes, but it's a very like light list. It's got titles like social media coordinator, events coordinator, project manager, which I think project manager might actually get rolled into this approver leader role concept. KDev, one thing we mentioned was that we might want someone to kind of own KDev stuff. Which currently Chris is like the only person who really understands that. So we'll have to work with him to figure out how we can shadow and define that role.
KDev
developer-
in the sense,
Is it
Oh.
KDev email or the developer or the
Oh, the
contributor
developer site.
side? Okay, gotcha.
I should clarify that. Thank you. And then we also mentioned a developer role because we know a number of members of the team would really like more hands-on coding, technical stuff. And we just haven't had the leadership to help people get familiar with those types of tasks. But if we could develop that internally and create a role for it, that would probably be really good.
so just a general question. Our sub-project, contributor comms marketing team, which are the other repositories that have apart from Golang codebase, if you understand. So we have the contributor to its repository, right?
Right.
Apart from
Yes.
that, what else do we have under us?
We have, let me add that into, yeah, I think we'll keep that in the leader role for now. So I started a list here. I listed one of the potential responsibilities of this approver leader role as GitHub manager. And that would mean managing the tweets repo, the like team repo, which is a sub repo of, I don't even know which one it is anymore. SIGs, maybe? No, that's not right. Community. Okay, community is which one that one's in. So I'm thinking community. And then the other one is the developer site. I think it's those three that our team specifically has some form of ownership over.
Okay. All right. So what I was mainly looking forward was the same thing about getting approvalship, getting the ownership of the contributors to it thing. The first message I texted you was about getting ownership for the contributors to it. So where
Right.
do this role get into it? Will it get into the social media contributor coordinator role or the approver coordinator role? Approver role.
That will be primarily the social media. So let me write that as a note as I say it. So manages tweets repo, but I think should leader role
I
have?
think the social media role would be more of creating the mail drafts or tweet drafts or managing the Twitter account or something like that.
Right.
I
So
was
if you
thinking of that.
have the keys to the castle, so to speak, and you can access the Twitter account directly, then you should also be approving tweets on the
From
repo
the
to go
GitHub
out
repo.
from that account. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're managing things that go out on that handle. You're basically managing that handle. So anything having to do with changes to that handle should be under your purview as the social media lead. That's the concept.
Yeah.
Whereas with this approver leader type role, you would be a collaborator with any changes to any repos that our group owns. So you could be an alternate approver on the tweets repo because we need that to not just be one person, right? And possibly also on the KDev and definitely on our team repo. So I think this approver leader role would be very general, very broad, and would work very closely with the other more specific leaders. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call the site KDev, k8s.dev. So I should say it. Okay. So I also added in the blogger role concept, which would involve managing collaboration with the blog sub-project, making sure review and other blog tasks are on our radar, getting completed. Working with storytellers, which basically anyone in this group has the storyteller role by default, is kind of the concept of that role. Because it's like a content creator role. You can write blogs, you can write tweets. So basically everyone is that. But there are some additional notes in our handbooks about the storyteller role. For example, in the social media coordinator, I also include any like storytellers who particularly want to focus on creating tweets. I include some information for them there, like where to find our social media guidelines on creating tweets and stuff. That's also in the social media coordinator role handbook. Alrighty. There's a lot more for us to discuss, of course, on roles. I'm really excited that we're starting to create these roles, starting to get them drafted up and defined. Once we have them defined, we can clearly state like which person is in charge of which roles and also start doing shadows of those, which I'm really excited about. Progress. Any other questions, comments about roles before we move on? We can always come back to it.
I'll have a comment on this.
Yes,
so
please.
About the developer role, basically, I was not getting a lot of time to explore more on the code base and stuff. So the next week, I'm going to explore more of the code base, mostly the KDev site. And I think Imran is someone who is also interested in exploring along with me. So maybe me and Imran will be working on this.
Sounds great. Thank you. And one thing we discussed last time when we came up with this concept of the developer role is not really the leadership of it is not really just having developer skills. It's understanding the Kubernetes code base and how to get around it, where things are, how to help people make changes in various repos and things that matter to us. So that's really the trickiest part about this developer role and why we haven't had someone to help others get familiar with all of this. So thank you, Avinash, for starting to do some exploration there. If anyone has any tips for how we can develop that expertise, please share either here or in the contributor comms Slack channel, because we would appreciate the guidance.
Need to reach out for any mentors.
Yes, that is something we discussed, was possibly needing to reach out. And like we were saying, one thing we were saying was if we define what this role should be, we can more easily put out a call for help, like a recruiting call to say, hey, we need someone to take on this role for us. Help wanted.
So basically describing the role would be the first task to get, to get.
That's the idea.
Sort of it. Okay. Maybe we can look in the direction before going directly jumping in the code base. Okay. At least we look what are the pieces we need. Then maybe we can describe some definition or responsibilities for it, and then we go about it.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Mhm.
So that's Imran, right? And do you and Avinash want to work together on?
Yeah, we'll both. I asked Avinash, so it was kind enough that we can go do it together. Yeah.
Atarva has also traditionally been really interested in this space. So Atarva, if you want to contribute to what you would like to see in this role, I think that would be great.
I'll give it a try.
Awesome.
By the way, the cates.dev website is on the contributor site repository. So if you want to search for the code base, you have to search for cates contributor site in the GitHub.
Okay.
Mhm. Can you ping that in the Slack or maybe in the chat?
Yeah.
Please?
Or
maybe I have someone else.
Kubernetes/contributor site. Here's it.
Contributor.
It's a Yogo based site, statically generated.
Yeah. So we've got k/contributor tweets. We've got our team repo, which is a subdirectory of K community. And then the cates.dev repo, which is k/contributor site. We just shortened Kubernetes to K a lot of the time when we're talking about these repos. So that's how I have it in the notes. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on unless folks want to talk about this more. This is really, really important. So I don't mind spending a good chunk of time on it. But if people feel pretty good, if you need any help with any role creation stuff, if there's something you're like, man, I really want to do that. And you want to know where it's starting to shake out in these role definitions, let us know in the Slack. Any questions, comments at any time about that. It's really important work that we need to get done and make sure that everyone is included in, because it's about having ownership, making sure that people understand responsibilities, like really making this contributor thing a benefit to you and to everyone else more solidly. So if you have any questions at any time, let us know. All right, I'll move on to the next one. Update GitHub repo to contributor comms name. I went over this with Chris last week and realized that it had basically all been done already. I just didn't really understand that. So now it's pretty old, so I think it's going to be problematic. But I put a comment on the issue, which is there in the notes, saying basically it looks like all of the needed changes are there. There's one suggestion there about making this a little bit clearer. And if we can just let them go, we should, but we need to like check back in on that because I totally dropped the ball on that a bit. So that's where that one is. I'll push on that this week. Let me write that down. Push on rename. Okay. So that's what's going on with that. Next item, SIG Spotlight. So there are several in progress. I know that I reviewed the SIG docs one as well as the SIG storage one on Friday last week. I think Federico, you went ahead and created a PR. Perniswar was also going to, but I don't think he's here right now. So Federico, any updates on your SIG spotlights?
Yeah, so starting from the storage one, I did open the PR. I initially opened it in the wrong place because I went directly into the Well, I actually followed the instructions, but the instructions led me to
The wrong place.
opening it in the wrong place. So maybe that's something that I can also assist in at least updating the blogging instructions that we have and that you shared with me some time ago. So, but anyway, that's on hold. I opened in our own repository. And I think that I already have I got some reviews requests, simple stuff actually, from both the Xinjiang and also from Tim, and I've committed them and I've assigned to the final approver, which let me see who it is.
Did you share the link to that as well?
Yes, I will. I'm getting there. So,
yeah.
In the meantime, I'm writing the SIG architecture one, which we got to go ahead. So I have the questions and I'm sharing them with the shares. So that's ongoing. I would say that it will be ongoing for the next 1 to 2 weeks, because it's to actually come up with good questions which are not just a repeat. It takes a bit more of time, obviously, and I'm reading up on some of the stuff that I think it's important for having an interesting interview. And the SIG security one, I've shared some examples of previous Spotlight interviews that was requested for them to get an idea on before saying yes or no. And I've just asked again if they are okay with proceeding. I didn't have a confirmation yet, but that's the status of that one. So one, it's near the finishing line, the storage one. The other is ongoing, the architecture, and the SIG security one is still pending a definitive confirmation from the SIG security shares. And the person who is responsible for this is it's Bob Killen.
Okay. Wait, the person who's responsible.
It's here. Well, I paste. I need to paste it.
Wait, so Bob is helping with the SIG security one? Wait, what is
no. Sorry, I came. I did a full circle. So for the SIG storage one, which is the only one with any visibility in terms of GitHub, that is
he's the approver. Gotcha.
And he is the approver. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the others, none of them are even on the ACMD stage.
Okay. So the issue that you had with putting it into the wrong place, was that an issue of the contributor site versus the regular Kubernetes site, or something different?
It was,
okay.
Yes.
So you put it on the contributor site first and then moved it to the regular site, or the other way?
No, vice versa. So
okay, interesting.
If you go wait, what did I do? I need to check. So the first one that I've opened.
All right, you have it here. It is on the contributor site. Interesting. I mean, these have traditionally gone on to the Kubernetes website. So you were not
which
wrong
was
historically.
where I opened the first. So
interesting. So this is a change, actually.
Okay, so I didn't do that. Let me see what was the other one.
It's not a bad thing to have it on the contributor site. Sometimes we do put blogs on both to increase SEO, make more links between the two. It helps the contributor site.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's what we should do here, or if we should start putting these on the contributor site. That would be a task for the blog coordinator role person to figure out.
And there's a new process involved with both contributor site blogs and Kubernetes.io blogs. The process is still a work in progress. It's leaning towards opening up a Google Doc, making a Google Doc first, creating an issue, and putting the link of the Google Doc. So the edits will go in the Google Doc before making a PR. The reason being with this is that it's hard to deal. There's a lot of back and forth between like edit or kind of comments and requested changes on GitHub versus a Google Doc where folks could just quickly make the change and kind of do like the last step is that PR. So those things are still in flight about changes, but just a heads up on that.
Yeah, we actually have an item in our table for keeping track of those changes. And that's kind of what we have been doing, is doing it in a HackMD or a Google Doc first and then creating the PR, but that was just like within our group. So this is a more official thing, and that's very exciting.
Yeah. So I've also added the first PR that I opened. And yes, the first one was on the Kubernetes website directly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then near the end, you can see that, Tim Bannister adds that spotlight on SIG blog start at the contributor site. And then once the text there is approved and published, we mirror those articles to the main Kubernetes blog.
Okay, that's a good
So
process.
I've opened that one. So yeah, so at the very least, I can update the instructions that we have in our blog posting guide to direct to this instead of the other one.
Okay, so SIG spotlights will henceforth be cross-posted on, well, from...
I'm selling you what what I was told, so it's not it's not something I'm suggesting. I received this as a done thing, and I followed the recommendation. So
yeah, I think it's a good recommendation. So sounds good to me. I was actually going to ask, like, Ray, if you had opinions on if we should do that or if we should just be posting on the contributor site or something, but sounds like Tim has already weighed in. So sounds like a good plan to me. Alrighty, and I should grab that note, and I've added the note about where they'll be posted into the notes as well. And then there's one other item I want to do on the SIG spotlights, which is Atarva, since you're back.
Yeah, I was just going.
Would you still like to do one of these?
Yeah, I went through all the SIGs that have been taken and that are being worked on. So I think I will take the SIG testing one. SIG.
Sounds like fun.
So what we have to do, I need to know everything.
Yes, I can give you the basic instructions through Slack.
Yeah.
To kind of review it here. What you'll need to do is to reach out to that SIG. Generally, I find the SIG channel in Slack and I put a post in that channel saying, hey, I'm from Contributor Comms. I'm looking to do a spotlight on your SIG. Who should I talk with to do the interview? Generally, that'll be the SIG chairs. You can also just kind of reach out directly to them if you want. I find it easier to find them if I just do it that way. Anyway, either way, some way you'll get to the chairs probably. And then I recommend doing your interview asynchronously in a Google Doc, because then you have all of their responses written down and it's kind of easier to convert that into text. Though some folks have done their interviews via video calls and like recorded them and converted that into text and had success with that as well. We've also had big delays in that process because sometimes it's kind of hard to take the words from the recording into words on a page. So either way, basically the steps are figure out who to interview them, create a draft doc in HackMD or Google Docs. Sounds like that might be preferred in the future. Get some reviews on that and then create a PR. And I'll give you all of these instructions on Slack so that you have them all listed. Sound good?
So basically, we have to get interview with one of the chairs. It is of one owner of two or more owners of the project.
Right. Usually there's co-chairs of each special interest group. So you'll generally be interviewing 2 people.
Okay, 2.
Yeah, generally. We are trying to make it more for contributor experience. We've traditionally had 2, all of the ones that I know of have 2, but we want to have 3 to 4 in the future, but that hasn't been implemented yet.
So this is reiterated every year.
The SIG Spotlight thing.
Yeah.
It's more like an ongoing, we used to have an umbrella issue for it in GitHub, but it became stale frequently because like people would have time to work on it. So they'd work on it and then people wouldn't have time. So it would just kind of get left there, but it's always something that we can do. So it's just one of those things that's like, if you want to write a SIG Spotlight blog post, have at it. And there are some resources for this in our repo that I'll be sending to you later. So
Yeah.
yep. There's some example interviews and stuff that you can use. So I'll sync with you on that in Slack. I might as well send a note about that now. All right. Anything else on SIG Spotlights before we move on? All righty. We're going to move on. We've only got 10 minutes left, so let's see if we can rush through these. I kind of doubt. Might not get through everything today. Let's see. Migration from Katacoda to KillerCoda. This one we have on here basically just to kind of keep track of this very interesting thing that's happening in our space. Katacoda was deprecated, let's say. And so it sounds like the plan now is moving to this new thing called KillerCoda. Any updates on that, Ray? I think you're probably the closest.
No updates. Doing it also for the Kubernetes.io main website as well. So for that website, it's odd. The Katacoda is still available, but I do want to have a migration path moving forward in case something happens. And
I mean, there's also the issue that it's kind of like on its own, right? It's this special server that they set up for us. So we might want to move it just for findability.
Exactly. Yeah. So and I've looked at a migration doc from KillerCoda itself on how to move your scenarios from Katacoda to KillerCoda. I haven't done that yet.
Cool.
Okay. So they have a blog on it, how to migrate from Katacoda to KillerCoda, which ideally I was in conversation with Deba, but for that I need some credentials to or access to the main repo. So after that, we can check if things are correctly working. If not, we can fix and then we can do the migration. It's pretty much easy.
Okay, so what you need is permissions to be able to do the migration steps. Is that right? Or to work with the folks who have those permissions?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Just kind of want to keep track of that. Yeah.
I see that Deba also opened up an issue. I saw maybe Chris tracked it with the help wanted maybe.
Yeah, if you want to share it, I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, let me find.
Actually,
I've seen it. Maybe
it might be the one that we already have. Yeah, we already have one in the
exactly.
notes.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. I'll move on from that. Annual report work, Frederico. You've been doing such a wonderful job of getting those tweets in. I've been doing a less wonderful job of getting them actually tweeted, but they are going out very slowly. We did one this morning.
Now, yeah, 2 per week or 3 per week. I think it's enough. So yeah, I'll keep at that rhythm. Yeah.
So appreciated. Thank you. And a reminder to everyone, there is a document on all of the stuff that we need tweeted from the annual report. Well, not all of it. There is room for more if anyone wants to tweet things about the annual report. But if you want to help out with that effort, there's a doc to check out. And I'll move on from that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Validate command was broken. I pinged Rajula about this and also pinged him about mentoring folks on the knowledge that he has on like the Slack bot and the GitHub for tweeting. Like he has some really nice technical knowledge that would fit into that developer role. So I chatted with him about making sure that that knowledge gets shared, that other folks can take on those responsibilities. He said that he's been really, really busy with work stuff. So that's why he hasn't been able to do that, but he is excited about the idea of passing on that knowledge. So that's kind of where we're at there. I need to sync with him again on that. On knowledge sharing. Okay.
There
gonna-
was something going
Oh, yeah.
on in the past with Avinesh, me, I think Nigel and Rajula, but
Yeah.
it got fault off for some reason.
It's because
was
that's
that?
going to be resolved by buffer. That was the stuff about auto-generating blog tweets, or was it the other one? It was one of the
Don't remember.
Twitter things that's going to be fixed with buffer.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I actually just deleted the note that was you all working together on that. Pretty sure it was the auto-generating blog tweets thing. That will still need to happen, but we'll be using a totally new tool for it. So you won't need Rajula's help as much for that in the future. We hope.
So, what about deleting the current workflow? Do we know
We're not
anything
planning
about it?
to deprecate or remove the current workflow. We still want to have it around because it has its uses. But we're hoping to have this other workflow for our group to use. But for example, if we wanted to have another group within Kubernetes create tweets for us, we would probably want to use our existing GitHub workflow because that's more integrated into the way the other SIGs work.
Okay, so
That makes
this is
sense.
totally third-party thing, buffer.
Right.
It
Yes,
will
it's a
not
third
be
party.
integrated with GitHub or anything like that.
Correct. It will be yet another venue for the social media manager to manage. Which should hopefully help us out a lot because it'll fix a lot of the issues that we have with the GitHub not being everything we want it to be. But it is a different process for us to learn. So it's going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I'll move on to the next item. We only have a few minutes. Let's see what we can get through. Review requested for APAC Meet Our Contributors blog. Any updates on current Meet Our Contributors blogs that need help or anything?
In the ContribEx meeting, the recent one, I think Josh said that something is wrong with KDev scheduling
Right.
or something.
Yes.
I'm not really sure, but so it's on hold
Okay.
currently.
This is on hold because of that. I should clarify that. Hold because of case.dev
Blogs are
scheduling.
posting early, I think.
Yeah.
There's
And
a
I
bug.
know, I think Avinash, you were looking into that issue and you
No.
wanted to work on it, but you weren't sure how to.
Pritish, it was Pritish.
Oh, was it British? Thank you. I am terrible at this. That's why I have notes. Yes, because that's the next item here is that Pritish was working on that. And Pritish, I think, is not here right now. Okay. I know that we had given Pritish some advice on how to find info about where to find the right code, but I'm not sure how that went and he's not here to update.
So updates on that, actually, I just have a look, and Tim Bannister is willing to help
Okay.
anyone who is interested in this issue. So is willing to explain the details.
Okay. So I should ping Pritish and let him know about that. I'll do
It
that
is about
after.
the contributor side, so we can approach Tim for mentoring
Okay.
if he has knowledge about it.
Good idea, because we also want to create that role around that. And I know Chris has a lot of knowledge there, but Tim would probably be having 2 mentors is better than 1.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right, spot
As
on.
many mentors we can get.
Yeah. All right. There was a blog that Deborah wrote that needed review. It was reviewed. Is this one done?
Still in progress.
Ugh. I apologize to all of you that we're so slow. Such is the community. There are reasons for it, but it's still painful. Okay. Is there any active action needed from us on that? Do you know?
I think now the blog is in SIG docs blog team subproject. So I think they are reviewing that thing. I don't know if we should track this from our side or not, because I've done the review, and the person who wrote this blog, she has changed the stuff that I suggested maybe. So I don't know if we should review this, if we should track this.
Okay. Let us know in the Slack channel if any help is needed. I'm going to move on to the next item because we're already at time. Next item is the SIG Docs blog subproject process changes, which we already discussed. So I'm going to move on past that. Tweet on squashing commits. Rashid wanted to do some work on that, but he's not here. So we'll move on past that. Security comms guidelines. This was a concept. Avinash, we can work together offline on this if you need any help with it.
Yep, sounds good.
And Hina added an item on that we talked about earlier. Yeah, because she was gonna add the other method here, suggesting adding the label to those issues as well. All right, it's not 9:01, so does that count as on time? You all know where to find us. If you need any help with any of your action items, ping us in the Slack. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming today. And I will go ahead and stop our recording. Thanks.